Beneath the cloak of twilight, where the boundaries of time and reality softly blur, you have entered whispering shadows. Good evening, dear listeners. I am Auguste Mojean, your chronicler in this domain of the mysterious and the spectral. As nights embrace titans, we explore tales woven from the fabric of the supernatural, where each shadow may hold ancient secrets. Gather your courage, for tonight we traverse the ghostly corridors of the unknown. Now journey back to Victorian England. Tonight's story is the Mortlake Mirror. It was on a dreary November evening when the antiquarian Charles Bentley first set eyes upon the mirror that would come to consume his thoughts and permeate his dreams with its spectral aura. He had acquired the ornate-looking glass from a reclusive old woman in Hampstead who seemed most eager to be rid of the object, though she refused to explain precisely why. "I advise you to keep it covered, sir," she had muttered, upon handing Bentley the item, which was draped in heavy black cloth. Back in his study, Bentley set the mirror upon his desk and removed the covering with excitement, for he had heard whispers that this was no ordinary-looking glass. Rumours tied it to the great scholar John Dee and his forays into divination in the 16th century. The mirror's frame was tarnished gilt bronze, elegantly worked into motifs of vines and flowers. At the crest sat an oval plate of smoky grey glass that reflected no images. Bentley felt a queer shiver down his spine as he gazed into its dim, lifeless depths. Still, being a man of scientific reason, he shook off this momentary fancy and assumed the glass was merely worn and opaque with age. Over the next week, Bentley found his eyes straying to the strange mirror whenever he was at his desk. Why was it so confoundedly difficult to focus on his research notes and manuscripts when that ornament sat there in his periphery? In frustration, he stood and walked over to examine it once again. "Preposterous that you should occupy my thoughts so," he murmured to the mute artifact. As Bentley tilted the mirror to find the correct angle to see his own reflection, the glass seemed to shiver and come alive, shadows swirling in its surface. He nearly dropped the object in shock. Steadying his grip, he gaped as the amorphous forms resolved into a room, his study. But the furnishings were all changed. The walls were panelled in dark wood, the desks and shelves piled high with leather-bound tomes and strange instruments. A figure stood in the room in front of a table, a tall, lean man in robes, his face obscured by the glass's imperfections. Bentley's mind reeled. Had he truly just seen a vision from the past? And if so, who was the mysterious robed gentleman? The mirror had become lifeless and opaque once more. "This is nonsense," Bentley said firmly, striding across the room to place a cloth over the unsettling object. Enough fanciful imaginings sparked by an old piece of glass. He had urgent work to return to. His monograph on Medici symbolism would require several more weeks of dedicated research in the archives. The mirror could wait. Despite these pragmatic resolutions, over the next few days, Bentley found his gaze wandering back to the shrouded-looking glass, which seemed to watch him reproachfully beneath its veil. Peculiar incidents began to trouble him. He would open a book and find the pages blank, then blink and see the contents had returned. Shadows gathered in the corners of rooms as he passed by at night on his way up to bed. Whispers seemed to emanate from within the walls whenever he was alone writing in the study. Try as he might to ignore these troubling signs, Bentley felt the mystery of the glass gnawing at his academic curiosity. Thus, one dreary Tuesday evening in late November, with rain lashing the windows, he found himself seated in his high-backed chair before the mirror, lantern lit, journal open. If benign methods of scholarly inquiry could not satisfy him, he would attempt to communicate directly with whatever spectral echo might be tied to this artifact. As described in texts of Renaissance metaphysics, Bentley softly chanted invocations while transcribing any sensations, sounds, or visions that came to him. After an hour, eyes burning from peering into the glass, he was ready to give up in frustration when suddenly the surface gave a quiver. Heart racing, he watched as shadows swirled and parted like a gloomy curtain. An apparition slowly materialized in the glass. A young woman in a pale gown, her eyes downcast and her hands clasped forlornly before her. Bentley's breath caught in his throat. This was no mere trick of the light. The woman's lips moved soundlessly as if speaking, her gaze full of sorrow. Overcoming his shock, Bentley addressed her in a quavering tone. "Madam, who are you? Why do you haunt this looking-glass?" The apparition's lips continued to move, but no reply was audible. Gripped by intense curiosity, Bentley leaned closer to the glass, feeling an icy chill radiating from its surface. The candle flickered. Bentley gave a start, realizing he had been in a mesmerized daze, staring into the depths of the mirror for an untold time. The apparition had vanished. Shaken, Bentley retired for the night, his restless mind a whirl. The next morning found him bleary-eyed but determined as he prepared to go out. He now had a clear goal: to uncover the identity of the woman and the mirror's connection to John Dee. Answers might be found in the archives of the British Museum, in historical libraries, or through some of the local occult societies that gathered to discuss metaphysical matters. As Bentley donned his coat and hat, he gazed once more upon the mirror. All was still and silent, but he could not shake the feeling he was being watched by an unseen presence. With a shiver, he covered the glass and made his way out to hail a hansom cab, the day's research awaiting. But try as he might to focus his thoughts elsewhere, the haunting image of the woman's forlorn visage lingered at the edges of his perception. Over the next few days, Bentley delved deep into the archives and libraries of London, searching for information about the mysterious woman in the mirror and its connection to the renowned scholar John Dee. In the dusty stacks of the British Museum, Bentley pored through crumbling papers and leather-bound manuscripts, seeking any reference to the mysterious artifact. The process was slow, each day's study yielding only fragments. Vague mentions of a scrying glass used by Dee in his occult experiments, whispered rumors of a looking-glass with sinister qualities, warnings against meddling with unknown forces. Late one night, after the archives had closed, Bentley trudged home through the fog-shrouded streets, feeling discouraged. Upon reaching his study, he warily approached the veiled mirror and drew off its covering. "What secrets do you possess?" he implored the artifact's dim surface. "Please give me a sign if you wish me to help you." The mirror remained stubbornly dull and opaque. Dejected, Bentley turned away and was halted by the faint sound of weeping. Heart leaping, he spun back and saw the ghostly woman's face once more materializing, her cheeks streaked by spectral tears. Bentley licked his dry lips and spoke urgently. "Please, madam, if you can hear me, reveal yourself. I wish only to help you find peace." This time Bentley clearly heard a tremulous whisper emanate from the glass. "Eliza. My name is Eliza." Hardly daring to breathe, Bentley slowly asked, "When did you become trapped in this mirror, Eliza?" The apparition's reply came in fragmented phrases, like one had forgotten how to speak. "I lived in Mortlake, John Dee, his rituals." She faded back into the swirling shadows. Bentley's mind raced. Mortlake had been John Dee's residence. This Eliza must have somehow fallen victim to the metaphysical experiments Dee conducted there centuries ago. But how had she become imprisoned in this particular artifact, and how could Bentley possibly help release her? Early the next morning, Bentley set out to trace Dee's connection to the mirror. His research led him deep into the occult underworld of London, full of secret symbols, mysterious figures, rumours and lore. He met with crazed alchemists, reclusive mediums and grave robbers, following each new lead. One cloaked informant led Bentley to an overgrown cemetery at midnight and pointed to an unmarked grave, whispering of a brother and sister buried there who had both disappeared from their home in Mortlake over 300 years ago. Later, in a smoke-filled tavern, Bentley listened intently as a wild-eyed antiquarian told the tale of a looking glass used in occult rituals by Dee to speak with angels and demons. When the glass turned black, it was said to have absorbed the soul of a young woman sacrificed by Dee during a failed summoning. At home, Bentley studied Dee's diaries and rituals, slowly piecing together clues. The mirror had been constructed under an alignment of stars and forces meant to imbue it with a direct conduit to the realm beyond. But when Dee attempted a banishing ritual, something had gone horribly awry. Eliza's soul was ripped from her body and became trapped between planes of existence, able neither to die nor fully live. Late one night in his study, Bentley again beheld Eliza's wraith-like form in the glass and spoke fervently to her. "My dear Eliza, I believe I understand what was done to you, though I know not how to undo it. But I vow to you I shall find a way to free you from this cursed artifact." Her spectral eyes met his, and for the first time, her phantom lips curved into a delicate, hopeful smile. Bentley's breath caught at the sight. How lovely she must have been in life. He was more determined than ever to help her find peace. Though he told himself his motives were purely altruistic, Bentley felt his fascination deepening. He began noticing odd occurrences, doors closing on their own, papers mysteriously rearranged. Once he thought he caught a trace of lavender perfume in the air where none should be. He took to absently caressing the intricate floral motifs on the mirror frame when lost in thought. At night, visions of Eliza permeated his dreams. He wondered what her voice might have sounded like, how her slender hand might have felt clasped in his. Bentley was unnerved to realize the ghostly woman's plight was occupying his thoughts more than his own work and relationships. The living world seemed to be losing substance compared to the allure of mysterious forces beckoning from beyond the veil. Bentley's quest for answers led him beyond the confines of his study and academic institutions, into the heart of London. The city, with its bustling streets and crowded marketplaces, seemed alien to him now, a stark contrast to the shadowy world he had glimpsed within the mirror. His journey took him to the dusty corners of antiquarian bookshops, where he pored over musty tomes and obscure manuscripts, and to the dimly lit parlours of mediums and seers who claimed knowledge of the spiritual realm. In one such parlour, an elderly medium with piercing blue eyes and a voice like rustling leaves spoke of John Dee's obsession with the occult and his dangerous experiments that blurred the lines between science and sorcery. She whispered of a ritual, lost to time, that Dee had conducted, the ritual that Bentley realized must have been responsible for Eliza's entrapment within the mirror. As Bentley delved deeper into the labyrinth of London's occult underworld, he began to piece together the fragments of the ritual. It was a complex and arcane process, requiring rare ingredients and an alignment of celestial events. The most chilling revelation, however, was the requirement of a personal sacrifice, a life willingly given to break the mirror's curse. Torn between his desire to free Eliza and the daunting reality of the ritual's demands, Bentley found himself at a crossroads. His nights were plagued with dreams of the mirror, of Eliza's pleading eyes, and of shadowy figures that whispered dark temptations in his ear. Days turned into weeks, and Bentley's obsession with the mirror grew. He began to withdraw from his scholarly pursuits, his social engagements, and even his friends, who watched with concern as he became a recluse, consumed by the mystery of the mirror. As the date of the ritual's celestial alignment drew near, Bentley knew he had to make a decision. The stakes were high: the liberation of Eliza's soul, or the loss of his own. The weight of this choice bore heavily on him, and he found himself walking the fine line between reason and madness. The city of London, with its teeming life and incessant noise, seemed oblivious to the supernatural drama that was unfolding. Yet, for Charles Bentley, the mirror had opened a door to a world that he could no longer ignore, a world where the past and the present, the living and the dead, were inextricably intertwined. As the night of the ritual approached, Bentley prepared himself for what was to come. He gathered the necessary ingredients, pored over the ancient incantations, and steeled himself for the sacrifice he was about to make. The mirror, once an object of scholarly curiosity, had become the focal point of his existence, a portal to a truth that was as terrifying as it was alluring. The night air in London was crisp, carrying the remnants of autumn, as Charles Bentley made his way through the dimly lit streets. His mind, a whirlwind of ancient incantations and spectral visions, was singularly focused on the impending ritual. The weight of his decision to delve into the forbidden and confront the legacy of John Dee pressed heavily upon him. The evening of the ritual had arrived, a night where the veil between worlds was at its thinnest. Bentley entered his study. Lit by the flickering flames of candles, it had become a sanctum of shadows and whispered secrets. The mirror's presence dominated the room, its dark frame casting long, ominous shadows as it awaited the fulfillment of its destiny, and Bentley, with a heart heavy with trepidation and determination, prepared to step into the unknown. Bentley's preparations for the ritual were meticulous. The ingredients, rare and arcane, were carefully arranged on his desk. Herbs with whispered powers, candles of black wax, and a silver dagger with an inscription lost to time. The history of John Dee, once a celebrated advisor to the Queen, now unfolded in Bentley's mind like a grim tapestry. Dee's descent into the occult and his relentless pursuit of knowledge had led him to the edges of sanity and beyond. The mirror, Bentley realized, was not merely a tool, but a witness to Dee's darkest experiment, an experiment that had ensnared Eliza's soul. As the clock struck midnight, Bentley began the ritual. The words of the incantation, ancient and powerful, filled the room, resonating in the very walls. The mirror's surface rippled, reflecting not Bentley's study, but glimpses of a bygone era, shadowy figures cloaked in the garb of the Elizabethan court. With each verse of the incantation, the air grew colder, and the shadows deepened. Bentley's voice, steady at first, began to waver as the reality of his sacrifice became imminent. He thought of Eliza, of the sorrow and desperation in her eyes, and steeled his resolve. The ritual reached its climax as Bentley took the silver dagger in hand, the instrument of his sacrifice. The mirror pulsed with an ethereal light, and Eliza's apparition appeared, her face a mix of hope and fear. Bentley hesitated, the dagger trembling in his grasp. In that moment of doubt, the room seemed to grow darker, the whispers louder. Figures emerged from the shadows, spectres of Dee's past, their eyes hollow, their mouths twisted in silent screams. They encircled Bentley, a macabre audience to the ritual's conclusion. With a deep breath, Bentley brought the dagger to his chest, the cold metal a stark reminder of the price of his quest. The spectres leaned closer, their whispers coalescing into a cacophony of voices. Bentley closed his eyes, whispering a final apology to Eliza, and plunged the dagger forward. In that instant, time seemed to fracture. The mirror erupted in a blaze of otherworldly light, enveloping Bentley and the spectres in its luminescence. The room, the study of a London antiquarian, faded into oblivion, replaced by a realm of shadows and echoes. Bentley found himself standing in an ethereal version of Dee's study, the alchemist himself staring back at him with eyes that burned with an insatiable curiosity. Dee's voice, a mere whisper, echoed in the void. "You have crossed the threshold, Charles Bentley. Your sacrifice has been accepted." The spectres, once tormented souls trapped by Dee's experiments, began to dissipate, their whispers fading into silence. Eliza stepped forward, her form now free from the mirror's confines. She reached out to Bentley, her hand ethereal yet warm. "Thank you," she whispered, her voice a balm to Bentley's tormented soul. "Your sacrifice has freed us all." As Eliza and the spectres vanished, Bentley felt a sense of peace envelop him. The alchemist's study dissolved, and darkness closed in. In his final moments, Bentley realized that his journey, his obsession with the mirror, had been a path to redemption, not just for Eliza, but for himself. In the silent aftermath of the ritual, Charles Bentley's study lay still, bathed in the soft glow of dawn. The once ominous mirror, now just an ordinary relic, reflected the mundane room. Its supernatural aura had dissipated along with the spectres and Eliza's presence. Bentley, lying motionless, had made the ultimate sacrifice, breaking the mirror's curse and finding peace in his final moments. Word of Bentley's demise spread, stirring a mix of sorrow and curiosity among London's scholars. The mirror, central to Bentley's end, became an object of speculation. Some admired his bravery, others warned of the risks in meddling with unknown forces. As time passed, Charles Bentley's encounter with the Mirror of Mortlake faded from memory. The artifact, the mirror, once a bridge to other realms, stood silent in a new study, a reminder of the fine line between scholarly pursuit and the supernatural. For those aware of its past, it remained a symbol of the unending search for knowledge and the courage it demands. As the echoes of our tale fade into the night, remember that more mysteries await you. Please show your appreciation with a like, comment, and subscribe. From Whispering Shadows, I am Auguste Mojean, until our paths cross again in this realm of the ghostly.